Thank you to our sponsors for today's video, Eaton, Ionna, and InfyPower. Eaton is a one-stop shop for implementing reliable and innovative EV charging infrastructure at your site. Across all applications, Eaton's EV charging infrastructure, hardware and software, gives you the scalability, flexibility, and intelligence you need to charge today and scale up tomorrow. Learn more at eaton.com/EVCI. Also, Ionna, North America's premier charging network. With unmatched commitment to elevating the customer experience, Ionna is opening America's roads to all EVs, giving drivers the coverage they need, the reliability they deserve, and the amenities they crave. And InfyPower, the largest EV charger module provider with over 3 million power modules running reliably worldwide. Their latest G2 collection features ultra-high power density and efficiency for EV charging and energy storage integration. InfyPower, innovation for your power. Hello and welcome to another Out of Spec Reviews video. Welcome to my 1-year ownership update of my Tesla Cybertruck. This is a Cybertruck tri-motor, and it is one of the first early deliveries of a Cybertruck. It still came a few months after start of production, but my VIN number is in the low 100 range. And in this video, I'm going to walk you through everything I love about the truck, everything I hate about it, what it's been like to own and drive one of the most controversial vehicles of most recent memory. And we'll also go through all of my servicing experiences, what's worked, what hasn't worked, what do I really like, what still needs improvement, and if I would rather have one of these or one of those if I had to do it all over again. Well, guys, the sun is going down and it's getting windy and a little bit chilly. We're gonna pull the Cybertruck inside the hub in just a minute. But if you don't wanna watch this super long video where I'm gonna walk you through all of the things I love, all the things I hate, my servicing experience, what we've done with the truck since day one, because we really accomplished a lot on demystifying the Cybertruck here on our Out of Spec channels. I've been thrilled with the coverage we've produced on this truck, as transparent as we possibly can be with everyone about what we love and what we don't. The quick and dirty here is, what do I think about the truck? If I had to give you my elevator pitch, genuinely love it. I really think it's one of the coolest cars in the modern times. I know that some people hear that and they think I'm insane. Maybe I definitely am insane, but I love that it's an 845 horsepower super truck with Baja mode that you can slide around completely sideways. It's at the intro of every Out of Spec video. I think it looks amazing on these Martian wheels that we put on here. If you have a Cybertruck, you need to get these Martian wheels. It's not a paid ad. I just absolutely love these. Martian did send me these wheels for free, I should say, but of course I just love them so much. It's the best wheel I've seen on Cyber, and these are bead locked. These are pretty serious as well. I think it's a cool looking truck. I love that it's a little bit polarizing. I love that it's a conversation starter. Sometimes it gets you into conversations you love to have. Sometimes it gets you into the worst conversations, especially recently. But in general, it is interesting how a modern car can play such a major role in modern perception of things. If anything, I just think it's cool. People are thinking about EVs, even if they love or hate it. I think that's absolutely awesome. I love the mono wiper, which is hilarious. I think it's great that it finally has FSD now, which makes it one of the most nice and daily drivable electric trucks in the market. I love the steer-by-wire, and overall, my impression is just absolutely very high bar. Absolutely love the truck. However, that is also offset by reliability problems. This truck has been into service multiple times throughout its ownership. The battery pack absolutely sucks on this truck. It is way too small in terms of capacity, 123 kilowatt hours when new. I just ran with Ryan a degradation test. I will let you know later on in this video how much capacity it has lost throughout my 1 year and 27,000 miles of driving. But regardless, the battery pack is too small. It takes too long to charge. The charging performance absolutely sucks on the truck. It has a very high peak of 330-ish kilowatts I've seen on this truck, almost 340 kilowatts early on. They seem to have nerfed that a little bit, that peak, with recent software updates, but still the curve just sucks. I mean, Lucid Gravity with the identical capacity just has a much higher C rate throughout the entire charging session. Just shows how poorly done this 4680 battery pack is, in my impression. And then I get to the daily driving characteristics of the truck from a powertrain split. The dual motor is better than the tri-motor. I keep saying this in many of my videos. I just drove another dual motor Cybertruck today, and I go, look, I love having the primary drive motive force in the rear of the truck. Unfortunately for me, the tri-motor version is mostly front wheel drive, which means it's pulling itself along with that permanent magnet motor all the time, and then it supplements the power with the rear. It's the opposite a drivetrain should be, in my opinion. So that's a real miss here. So while I do love the truck and I think it looks cool and it does drive great and it has really nice FSD now and still some improvements needed there compared to the rest of the fleet, it is offset with some of the reliability issues, especially recently. And of course, the depreciation on the truck has been brutal, although I will talk about that later on in this video. In general, I will always have a soft spot in my heart for a Cybertruck, and I'm really glad that I've had this one for 1 year. So with all that said, that's my elevator pitch to you. Let's jump inside. I'm going to run through everything we've done with the truck, all the servicing, what broke, what didn't. We're going to run through some charging stuff, whatever else comes to mind. I've got a full list. We should make it quite quicker than the other videos we've done. For anyone just watching this video, I will leave linked below my 3-month and 15,000 mile ownership update. That was more of a review of the Cybertruck, a long-term review, where I walked you through every single little thing, what I thought about the driving dynamics. This video is going to be primarily focused on the ownership experience. Watch my 3-month review because I just skimmed through it and pretty much everything still stands best I can tell. So let's run through the ownership stuff on this truck and, well, why it might be one of the last times you see this one on the channel. Hey, Alyssa, how's it going?
What's up? Going good.
Well, I brought you here to help film the video. Thank you very much. And I also brought you here because you've driven the Cybertruck a ton, especially over the last 6 months. And we all know I can get pretty long-winded with these things. So like I've mentioned, watch the 3-month, 15,000 mile ownership video. That covers my thoughts on the truck. Alyssa, should we run through the history of this Cybertruck here at Out of Spec?
Yep, it's been a good time.
Yep. So back in November of 23, I believe was the initial delivery event. Colton and I were there. And at the time, it seemed like Cybertruck was a little unobtainium because there was just a long order list. This was when we saw the initial specs on delivery. And it was a bit disappointing when the Cybertruck first launched. That 500 miles of range for whatever price, I forget back then, that was all gone.
30-something thousand or something.
Yeah, I mean, this was a $120,000 truck being the top spec. And they did this foundation series, which this truck is, which came with a bunch of stuff. But I think it took almost a full 9 months for us actually to get everything we paid for on initial delivery.
Correct. Yep.
Which was annoying. No way around that. We made videos about how annoying that was and how, Tesla really should focus in the future on making a more baked product at launch.
Correct. Yeah.
I think they used up their one pass. Maybe they didn't even have a pass, especially from our side. In the future, I hope they learn their lesson and can deliver a much more finished product at day one.
I agree.
Okay, it's fine to get some added features, comfort features, whatever, through OTA software updates, many of which did come in, and we have to give Tesla credit. They eventually got me everything I paid for, but man, was it a long wait. You know how long we had this truck without lane centering?
It was, at least 6-7 months?
Yeah, something like that, where we had no lane centering from Tesla, which are known for having like FSD and stuff. Anyway, things really improved, and it's quickly how we forget how long we had to wait. So I ordered this truck and actually put in like the official order from the reservation on February 20th, 2024. At the time, there were pretty much only dual motor trucks out there, a very, very small handful of tri-motors. And we actually had the opportunity because we used a referral program to sort of accelerate the delivery. It was like burn 30,000 points, and a huge shout out to the viewers for using our referral codes. I actually used my dad's referral codes because he's the one who had the points in order to accelerate our delivery timeline. And that's actually why initially this truck was registered to my dad. That's right. Why it's Dave's truck, more or less.
Dave gets all the points.
Dave gets the points. You guys use his codes more than anything. It's hilarious. So anyway, I really do have to thank my dad for letting me burn some points. I mean, we obviously paid for it, but paid for the truck. But thanks to Dave for letting us accelerate delivery. So this was like right when Cybertrucks were just starting to get delivered outside of like Tesla employees. We ordered it February 20th. I took delivery with you and our buddy Brandon from Tesla Flex down at the Jacksonville, Florida Tesla Service Center on March 7th, only about 3 weeks after we ordered it.
Yeah, it was insane. I don't think we all believed it was going to happen, and it just poof happened.
It just absolutely happened, and we have to say a huge, thank you to the logistics team, because we kept pushing them on that, because Alyssa, we had planned that big cross-country truck race to happen after delivery.
Right, yeah.
So we took delivery on the 7th, and we signed an agreement with Tesla that said we had to keep the truck for 1 year. Now, pretty much, I think every Foundation Series owner up until a couple months ago also had to sign the agreement. We were offered, even on day one, I remember posting the delivery video the next day after we took delivery, over $250,000 for this truck. So people just wanted to write us a huge fat check to take it and do whatever they were going to do with it. And that was not our purpose. That was not our intention. We signed an agreement with Tesla to say we'd keep it for 1 year unless we got written approval from them to sell it. That 1 year is up. We no longer have to worry about that. And the truck is now can go where, and we'll talk about what we might do with it in the future and what I think we really are going to do with it in the future. So I want to run through kind of in chronological order. If you want to come around and move around, you're more than welcome to, so people can see what it looks like, how dirty it is. We use it as a truck. The interior is covered in dog paws and absolutely trashed. But I'm going to run through a little bit of the events we've had, the major, I would say 20 things that happened to this truck since we took delivery. So we took delivery in Florida at the Jacksonville Delivery Center. We had it for, I think, 1 or 2 days just to film some videos, edit. And that is when we had everyone fly in. All of our friends came. We had other press trucks come. I forget exactly how it all worked, but then we did that big truck cross-country race. And we were on a mission to quantify, to test Cybertruck and the other electric trucks, which were still more new and exciting than they are now at the time, all against each other. Finally, all of the major truck manufacturers had their vehicles on sale, and it was time to put them head to head. And the first thing we did was drive coast to coast on the shortest distance possible, from Jacksonville, Florida to San Diego, and wow, was that a blast. I drove this truck with Drew and Brandon. Some of our other friends drove the other trucks. We had an absolute great road trip in this for the first time, and man, did we learn a lot about the truck. No lane centering sucked. We had to drive manually the whole way across the country, which, okay, for like most people, not a big deal. It really honestly wasn't a big deal, but we're so used to driving modern cars with great highway lane assist and driver assistance, and this just didn't have it. We also learned how poor the charging performance was on this and how really poorly this truck, which is a high voltage native truck, it's an 800, it's like 770 volts nominal plus or minus 820 full. But that doesn't interface natively with the superchargers. So the truck has to go into split pack, which lowers the overall pack voltage, and then it dumps all the current in from the superchargers. And this was really, at the time, I don't think we had any V4 dispensers on our trip. And so we were just smoking version 3 cables across the country, and it was warm out. We were wrapping the handles with cold rags. We were using the wet rag trick, which later Tesla came out and said, hey, don't do that. Which, yeah, we were in a race. We were going to do what we had to do to get this thing across the country as quickly as possible. And so we did, and we actually came in a very close second place, I would say only by 15 minutes behind the Silverado EV. And man, was that just such a fun trip across the country. Really, really a great way to break in the truck. I then don't think I ever even shared this story. Maybe I did. This was back in the day before Cybertruck really had CCS charging enabled. If you guys remember the early days of Cybertruck, it worked on some CCS chargers. It didn't work on others. And we really wanted to get a native high voltage charging session on this truck. So I took this by the EVgo laboratory right near LAX. And it was the first Cybertruck they were ever able to do interoperability testing with. And we found some bugs with Delta high power chargers and a few others that they worked with Tesla on, so that, all Cybertrucks could then interface nicely with CCS chargers. And now, honestly, to this day, this truck charges great on CCS chargers, actually better than superchargers. And there is an adapter around here I want to show you guys because I just used it today. Maybe it's in the seat. What was that? Oh yeah, it's right on the seat. Thanks, Alyssa. It's this. Not a sponsored ad or anything, just the normal Tesla CCS adapter doesn't fit in the truck. I'll show you over here. It's a long video, whatever. I'm pulling a Kyle. We're going deep. The normal CCS adapter doesn't fit into the Tesla charging port because this bit sticks out too far. So the normal one kind of just like gets to there and it can't interface with the port. The reason that's a good thing is the factory Tesla CCS adapter does not support high voltage. It goes up to 500 volts. So this is actually a CCS to NACS adapter that's 1,000 volt rated for safety because the truck does go high voltage mode and it does interface perfectly with the Cybertruck charging port. It's made by A to Z, so I want to send a huge shout out to those guys for sending me this. I've been using it a bunch and we will have a couple more videos coming with Cybertruck charging on high voltage charging equipment using this adapter. It's very nice. Also, many more public charging stations are now supporting NACS, which interface perfectly with this truck. We have one at our office, for example. This truck charges great there. And a lot of that fantastic interoperability for charging came from some of the early testing we did on this very truck. So I'm very proud and very happy to make charging, easier just by knowing some people in the charging industry with this one right here. That was really cool. I then, after we did some testing in LA, we showed it to a bunch of friends. It was really it was the hotness at the time. It was so cool to have this truck that early on. I drove it back to Colorado with Andreas and actually Jerome. The three of us took 3 of the trucks back. And I can't remember what happened with the 4th one. Maybe Ryan drove the other one back. But I actually got stuck in the middle of Wyoming with this truck. I don't know if you remember that, Alyssa.
Yeah, I do.
And, it was March. It was around this time of the year last year.
Yeah, it was snowy. It was cold. It was icy.
Yeah, the roads just were sheet ice and they shut the highway down. And so I had to stay overnight in the middle of, I forget the name of the town in Wyoming, a small town there. And I woke up the next day and the highway was still closed and the town was filling up with people. And I remember just trying to find any way out of this town of Wyoming. And I was on some back roads trying to go back roads down into northern Colorado from Wyoming. Unfortunately, they closed all of those too. So we really were trapped. I actually ran into our buddy Andre from TFL in the middle of Wyoming.
Yeah, that's right.
And we shot a TFL, did it go on TFL Truck or TFL Now? Can't remember. But I remember Andre and I filming a review of this truck in the middle of the highway in Wyoming because we just had to sit on the highway because it was closed. And that was so fun running into Andre there. And again, this was really, you just did not see Cybertrucks on the road outside of like Texas and Southern California at the time. It was so unique to see this truck. And I got 0 bad reactions during the first couple months of ownership. Everyone was thumbs up. Everyone thought it was so cool. Yeah, there were the comments online that people were like, that's so ugly. What a terrible truck. But in person, everyone seemed to just love it. And the reactions were just extremely positive. So as soon as we got back to Colorado, that's when we did all of our hardcore truck testing. Again, like I mentioned, we bought this, we wanted to demystify it. We did the towing test. We did all the range testing. That's where we pulled 123 kilowatt hours out of this truck. It did over 300 miles at 70 miles an hour. I think like 302, 304, something like that. And we just absolutely did everything we could. We towed over the Rocky Mountains with all the trucks. We did off-road comparisons, locking differential stuff, showing how each truck had their own pros and cons off-road. And that was a really cool event. It was basically, do you remember that, Alyssa? Like 2 weeks of sun up to sundown hardcore truck testing.
Yeah, that was mentally insane. And we did that before we even had this truck. There was a lot of testing down in Texas as well. So
right, but that was even earlier. That was with a buddy of ours truck. So then, let's see. Then it actually went back to LA. I don't know if you remember that. Jordan took this to California.
Yep.
And Motor Trend did a bunch of videos with it. We're friends with Out of Spec and Motor Trend, have a great relationship. So we let them use our truck. Tesla couldn't get them one for testing in time or whatever. And they wanted to recreate from the launch video a Cybertruck beating a 911 in a drag race while the Cybertruck towed a 911. And they did that with this very truck. So it was super cool that this one got to go and do that. I absolutely loved it. They also did all of their testing procedures on it, track testing, all the other stuff, charge testing, the things that they normally do. So it was really cool to support them with this truck. Some other friends in the business also got to check it out, and really happy with basically, I don't know if
it reached a lot of outlets.
Yeah. And I'm really happy about that.
Yeah, it definitely got its use case, and everybody got to enjoy it and utilize it to its fullest potential.
Yeah, definitely. Everyone used it hardcore. It was awesome. Next up, we then brought it back to Colorado, and that was right when Drew was launching these wheels. So we did all the test fitting of the prototype set for this truck, which I actually think are these very wheels, if I remember correctly. And that came out great. We then once we got these wheels and these tires mounted, Alyssa, we then did the big off-road test.
Yeah,
and that was so fun. You got splashed with mud.
Yeah, I sure did. I took one for the team.
That was pretty crazy. Great video. Thanks to everyone who watched that one. Because we did that video right as Tesla launched the locking differential update and the big off-road app. And so we did, showcased all of that. Then we actually did the PowerShare home backup stories. And I'm not exactly sure if I have that in the right order, but I put in, part of what I paid for with this truck was a bi-directional home charging capability, so that if we lost power at home, I could export AC power to this sort of gateway box, and then I could power up my house. Unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't think we've lost power one time since we got this truck. So every time that I've had the truck back up the house, it's because I flip the breaker and then it kicks on PowerShare.
Yeah, just for fun.
I think it's kind of fun to go and charge for free at the office and then bring that free energy home and run the house off the truck. It's a fun thought experiment. In practicality, I've maybe saved like $3 doing that. And yeah, this truck came including an install of the wall connector with PowerShare because we got the tri-motor foundation series. That was included. That happened. That all worked. And I think we were one of the very first PowerShare customers for Tesla. And I'm a huge fan of bidirectional capability, exportable power. It's one of my favorite things about the truck is the NEMA 1450 outlet in there. And so I loved that we were able to showcase that. Then our buddy, after the I-90 surge, well, no, we drove it to Jackson Hole. You and I took it on a trip up there to the Polestar event. Andreas then took this to Seattle and back because I left a set of wheels at our buddy Chad's house in Washington. And then really the rest were just modifications. Just a few months ago, we got the light bar installed, which looks really cool, is not that functional. It's actually like the least bright light bar I've ever tested.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't used it in its most natural habitat where it's supposed to be used, but where we have used
where's it supposed to be used?
I don't know, in like the woods or something.
Yeah, it would light up the trees. Yeah. It's got some nice ditch lights. Those are cool. Those work really well. But the actual illumination out the front, it seems to light up the windshield more than the road. Yeah,
it's not as good as we would hope.
No, and this is wired directly to 48 volt. So when this went on, Tesla couldn't even wire it up. We wired it up to there's a specific wiring point in the roof. And it works perfectly with the software. You can select it. I just wish you could tie it into the high beams. Technically, since it's not DOT compliant, it's not really legal to even drive it with the cover off like this. I mean, no one really cares, but yep, that is certainly a thing. We then had it wrapped by Test Bros in this awesome sort of satin white finish. Absolutely love the work they did. So shout out to G and his team for wrapping the truck white. Unfortunately, we're not going to, well, I say unfortunately, no one knows yet, but this truck's really not going to stick around that long. So people aren't really going to see the white for that much longer. But yeah, really cool of them to do that. And they did some nice details too. They put like an embossed foundation thing under here that I wasn't totally aware of them doing. And, Alyssa, personally, I really do love the metal of the Cybertruck. I think that's one of the really unique pieces of this truck is having that stainless under there. I think the white looks great in photos. In person, I probably wouldn't have done it again. What do you think?
No, I like cars in their natural habitat. You can enhance the coloring and stuff like that and make it look better through polishing with this guy and all that stuff, but I don't know. I think I would have liked to keep it raw.
Yeah. So, that's nothing against the work that Test Bros did. That was kind of a fault on my side for choosing white. We went back and forth on color and custom designs. And finally we just said, just make it white. And I really do think it looks awesome and really cool, especially because so many of our friends have black Cybertrucks. But I actually think the stainless is cool. If I were to do it again, I would keep it stainless. Absolutely love that. And the last thing that we haven't installed is actually back here. Maybe you can show everyone. We got this roof rack sent to us by Urander, and it's basically this super cool box, and I think it's going to look awesome. So that is really, that's it. That's the major stuff we've done with this truck. Should we talk about servicing experience, Alyssa? Because I feel like that's been the big topic on this truck, especially recently since it kind of broke down.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's spent a lot of time over at the Loveland Service Center, and we've really gotten to know those guys between this car and then our Model S.
Yeah, the Model S is probably worse than this, to be honest.
Yeah, let's get through it.
All right, so servicing experience, because I think this is really where things start to go downhill. It went into service, I believe, 7 times in our 1 year of ownership, 1 year and 1 month. That seems just initially excessive, doesn't it?
Very excessive, yes.
And I think we went into this understanding that we're getting an early vehicle, and we knew that things were going to go wrong and there was going to be, you know, interesting problems with it. And on one hand, that's why we got it early, is to make videos, to keep companies under pressure to fix their stuff, to try and help them understand that it's so important to deliver a fully baked product, even when it's a new launch product. The fact that this was VIN 140 something is not really an excuse for the problems that we've had, but we did go into it knowing, oh, we're probably going to have a couple things. I don't think I knew how many problems we were going to have with it. And I will say, in general, if you had asked me the first 3 months of ownership or so, I would have said this was a pretty reliable truck, Alyssa.
Right. It was.
It was. And then things just kind of trailed off. So let me walk you through the major service things. I just went through the big ones. So the first is, I believe Jordan was taking this back from California and the entire windshield wiper fell off.
Yeah.
So that was the first thing. That was end of May 2024. And then in July of 24, it went in for a big list. And that they fixed the door bolts. I think that needed to get fixed. The throttle pedal, you remember there was a story about them slipping off early on. They had to rivet that as part of a recall. The alignment was off, so they fixed that. So the steering wheel from steer-by-wire was actually just a couple degrees off, which drove me insane. And especially because there was no FSD, you had to drive manually the whole time. There was a rattle in the driver's door mirror every time you'd open and close the driver door. Remember that old squeak, Alyssa?
Yeah, there was a lot of squeaks. There's a lot of rattles and...
Yep, couple more rattles in there as well, and that got sorted. At some point shortly after that, we got our set of wheel covers for the factory wheels, which I actually love the factory all-terrain wheel and tire option from Tesla. It's not the best all-terrain tire. Its tread depth is pretty small to try and get the range and performance characteristics, so they don't last long. But I love that Goodyear tire fits perfectly with the cover, and I think it's such a cool look. I absolutely love the Martians on this, but that factory wheel and tire combo works. I really like it. I do not like the standard Cybertruck wheels with the little arrow cover. That to me is pretty ugly. I would not go for that. In middle of August, we had our first major problem with the truck, which we didn't even know was a problem at the time, Alyssa.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And so it went in and they said, hey, we need to steal the motor out of your truck. I'm like, what? You're stealing the motor out of our truck? They wanted to do an engineering study, is how they phrased it to us, on the front motor of our Cyber Beast. Now, that is the permanent magnet motor. I've gone through this a million times in other videos. And they also did some engineering studies on friends of ours who also had sort of higher mileage Cybertrucks at the time of their permanent magnet motors, which were in the rear on the dual motors. And so they put a new updated part in the front of this truck. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Didn't think about it until afterwards. After that, it sat in service for a long time for that.
Yeah, it was in there for I don't know, months?
Not months, but a month maybe. It felt like a month. I don't know the exact days, but it was in for a while. And we did get a new motor, and it was all fine, and it was a little bit quieter and slightly more efficient based off what we could find. Minor tweaks, but it was better. And we only found out until later that early Cybertrucks just had major inverter problems on the permanent magnet motors. And that is why almost all of the early ones had a complete motor swap or an inverter swap. And I think they didn't know exactly what was going on at the time. And my gut feeling is they preemptively replaced our motor, because this truck was on YouTube, to try not to have it break down on YouTube.
Right, but it still did.
It still did later on. So that happened. Then in October, it went in for another big list. I usually wait for stuff to pile up and then bring it in for a big service. So in October, it went in for the underfloor storage cover not fitting properly. The mirror squeak came back. The rear seat rattle came back. The front motor clunk where we hit a bump and it goes boom all the time. I've talked about it in other videos. They drove it, verified it, said there was no possible fix for it at the time. That's when they installed the off-road light bar, and they finally fixed my doors creaking. Do you remember every time we'd accelerate and brake, the doors would creak, creak, creak?
Yeah.
And there was just a little, I guess, latch that needed to be tightened down in all the doors.
Very simple thing.
Simple thing, but they finally got that fixed. It drove me insane the first few months of driving this truck. I would almost just not even want to drive it because every time you go, it'd just start creaking right next to your ear. In December, we damaged the truck because we took it off-roading. And we left it like that for a while with the damaged panels and the mud flaps ripped off.
Oh yeah, I mean it was just some plastic.
Just some plastic.
Nothing hurting it.
Nothing crazy. You also backed out of the garage and ripped the mirror off the truck.
Yeah, I did do that. Yeah.
So it went in for that, but then it also went in for they had to clean the cameras under the windshield. That was like a recall thing or a campaign, not a recall, but like a little thing they had to do. They had to put a new wiper motor on there. They had to replace the 2 sails. So they did that before that became a recall on this truck.
Mm-hmm.
But we actually did have an issue.
Yeah.
So our sail on that side kept looking like it was going to fly off.
Oh, yeah.
And we kept having to tighten it. And
Right.
it kept loosening itself. So they replaced those. Now it turns out all of them need replacing. Okay. But that's okay. I was just surprised they replaced both of them. And now knowing what we know now about that becoming a recall makes sense. And... what else did they do? Oh, and they had to do something with a cable harness. They had to reroute a harness in here. So another like campaign for service. Then the last thing happened in March, which is what we've recently covered, where the rear motor blew, the inverter on the rear motor blew. The truck went completely dead. It blew the pyro fuses, and we've covered that in videos before. That was a recall that never made it to us and never showed up in the app. I would have brought it in to have it fixed. I didn't know. So we were just driving over here to the hub from the house and boom, truck just stopped producing power on the rear axle, turned into a front driver. And it was fine for like a couple days until it wasn't fine. And then it just bricked itself. There was a high voltage isolation issue. The pyro fuses went and this turned into a brick. And that's when things really went downhill. I'm going to share what Tesla's outcome was from that, but the one thing we didn't discuss is while it was in for that service, I had them replace the HEPA filter because I like to do that every year. And I also had them rotate the wheels and tires, which actually helped with some noise characteristics of these tires, so that was good. And while it was in there, the telematics control unit, which does like all the Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, fried. So something through that high voltage thing must have fried it, and they had to replace the telematics unit on the truck. I'm going to tell you Tesla's response towards the end of the video and what we're going to do with it. But Alyssa, is there anything more to cover from a service experience? It seems like a lot. It was a lot. And it was a lot of little things, a lot of little rattles, a lot of little annoyances.
Yeah. I mean, it's very Tesla-esque. So we weren't really surprised with it. But I think overall, the amount of time that it was in service was astronomical. The times it needed to be in. Our service team is great. They're usually pretty quick to get everything done.
Yeah, shout out Toby and everyone over there.
Yeah, it's generally just waiting on parts. That's the thing that takes the longest. But it spent a lot of time there.
Yeah, I would say more than I was expecting, and it just seemed to get worse and worse because they'd fix something like the rattles back here really drove me insane, and then they just kept coming back.
Yeah.
And so that was a little bit annoying. I just want to run through just again to reiterate the modifications we've done to this truck. Really not many, Alyssa. We've wrapped it white from Test Bros, which came out really nice. Yeah. We've put on the Martian wheels with the Wild Peak AT. These are the 4Ws. These are the new tires. One of the major problems we had with the Cybertruck was this winter, Alyssa. We could not find a winter tire to go on this vehicle.
Right, and that blew our minds.
Right, so there is a Nokian option. I believe one of our viewers with a Cybertruck runs Nokians on his truck. He had to do a different wheel size. But anyway, I also have My plan for this season was going to be to put the Nokian Outpost NAT tire on here. Nokian's a longtime sponsor of Out of Spec. I like to run their tires. At the time when we got these, Drew supplied them with the Wild Peak ATs. And yeah, I've actually been really impressed with this tire. Amazing off-road, really good tire. Honestly, good in the snow as well. Yeah. It is triple peak rated, and I thought it was totally fine. The other modifications we've done is nothing. Right? Nothing. Yeah, nope. Just light bar, which was factory.
Right.
Power share, which was factory.
Right.
Wheels and tires, wrap. That's it.
Yep. Kept it pretty raw.
Yeah, I would have loved to put the Uranda rack on.
Yeah, that would have been cool, but yeah.
Yeah. All right, so I'm going to run through now the 5 things I love about the Cybertruck and the 5 things I hate about the Cybertruck. You ready for this, Alyssa? I want to see if you agree with me.
Okay.
We're starting with what I love about the Cybertruck. And I know this video has been kind of a downer because we've just been talking about service, but truly, I've owned a lot of cars. You've seen them even before I was a YouTuber. I've owned a lot of cool and interesting cars. This might be the most interesting car I've ever owned. I say that as someone who owns a 2012 Coda electric and a commuter car, if you peek down here. That's also my other Cybertruck, by the way. We've got another one over there. Yeah. 5 things I love. Sound system.
Great.
Amazing sound system in here. It's big. It envelops the whole cabin. It's got great bass. You just get a good song on here, crank up the volume, and it rips. It's absolutely amazing. Do you agree?
I agree.
Okay, the next thing is something that actually really sucked when we first bought the truck, but completely changed after software updates. When they launched the off-road apps and Baja mode came into play, and specifically when they allowed Baja mode in standard ride height, not when it was in high ride height, this truck turned into an absolute blast to drive hard. It went from driving like a computer on wheels that drove like, you know, completely awkward and odd when you drive it fast to something natural and tossable and oversteery and really got those rear motors working and the torque vectoring happening and the steering totally came alive. And now this truck is way more fun to drive fast than my Rivian. It's got better thermals, it's got better dynamics, and it went from being actually one of the worst trucks to drive hard to the best electric truck to rally. And Alyssa, you've been in this thing with me in Baja mode many times. It's hilarious.
Yeah, it's super fun. Lots of spinnies, lots of donuts, lots of things it can do.
Yeah, so as much as I complain about the drivetrain tuning, that's mostly in the normal drive mode. When you go into Baja mode, man, does this thing just wake up. I just wish it would stay in that mode all the time. So absolutely love that. The third thing I absolutely love about this truck is exportable power. I think it's great to be able to have a giant battery pack on hand that I can then do whatever I want with the energy. I can power my house through power share. I can power other cars through the NEMA 1450 outlet. There's 120 volt outlets all throughout the truck as well. It's a really nice system. I wish it didn't have as much voltage sag under huge load, but other than that, an amazing thing to have exportable power out of the truck. And it's one of the real great things about this. Most every other electric truck, Lightning, Silverado, Sierra, that allows good exportable power, they're only like 7 kilowatts. This is almost 10 kilowatt exportable. I can do 40 amps continuous to another car. It's just the next level. It's awesome and very, very pleased with that. There's 2 more things. I actually put 6 on here, not 5. One of them is just in general the uniqueness of the truck. I think it's cool to have unique and weird cars. You see what I have in here. I love oddities. And this, no question, even today is still a unique and weird car. And that is one of the things I absolutely love about it. It's just awkward in all of I think it's really ugly. I'm not saying this is a pretty car. I just love that it's unique. I think it's really cool. And I'm glad this has been on the roads because it really took a bold group of people to make something this wild. And the last thing that I really love is all of the user-facing service mode and diagnostics function on this truck, especially with some of the issues we've had having Tesla service mode and remote access through Tesla Toolbox. We showed you that when it broke down. It's amazing how connected it is. It's amazing how Tesla went from one of the worst cars to service as a third party to one of the best to give you the most information, the most detail, the most charging information on the screen. Service mode is something I love in all Teslas and specifically here with the Cybertruck. Alyssa, anything you'd like to add off the top of your head on what you love about the truck?
Yeah, you guys all know I'm a dog person, and our Newfoundland had surgery, and he wasn't able to really get in and out of cars easily. But how far this truck goes down in low mode, and it's not even in its lowest. He's
No, it's
able
actually
to
in high
just,
suspension.
yeah,
It can come all the way down.
yeah, he's able to just get in and out of that, and that's been totally great. It's been a great dog hauler. And then also during his dog show season, I was able to rip his high power dryer on it with absolutely no problem. And let me tell you, that's amazing because I can't even do that at home.
Right, you keep popping fuses at
Oh
home.
yeah, I'm always at the breaker. Kyle knows when things are going wrong when the lights flicker.
Absolutely, yes. So this had, the exportable power was just useful for many things on this. Time to change the mood. 5 things we hate about the Cybertruck, Alyssa. Do you want to start?
I'll give you my one pet peeve that has just made me mad from the get-go. And that is when I turn on the turn signal, I can't see out of the rear view mirror.
Great point.
Drives me freaking bonkers how they haven't fixed that, but they've done all the other things. I can't see. How am I going to know if somebody's going to rear end me, especially when it's icy and snowy out? I honestly didn't drive it as much when it was snowy because of that. Because it's just wild.
Right, so you can't see out of the physical rear view mirror because this is closed.
Right.
You can if this is open. And
Right.
normally you have a digital rear view mirror on the screen. And when you hit the turn signal, that digital rear view mirror is replaced with your turn signal, even if it's in a different spot on the screen.
It goes bye-bye.
and the last thing you want to do is like make a turn, slow down, and like you always want to check, just make sure if the car behind you is going to hit you. And if they are, it's got enough power, you can like wide open throttle and get out of the way. Yeah, and you have no chance of doing that here.
No clue.
Yeah, so I totally agree, Alyssa. They need to fix that. That's a fantastic point.
Thank you.
And the one thing we didn't put on 5 things we love, we alluded to it, dog mode.
Oh yeah, but yeah, it's a Tesla thing, so it's kind of a known thing. But if you don't know that about Tesla, dog mode's great. This cabin can stay so freaking cold during the heat of the heat. I could have it ripping, and our Newfie is just fast asleep, belly up, and just comfortable and happy as a clam in there.
Yeah, I mean, the thermal management on this truck is amazing. Just cabin climate, even battery cooling. That's not the limitation as to why it doesn't charge well. Like, just very impressive thermal management here from their thermal systems. Okay, so I'm going to run through the 5 things I hate. Great suggestion on that mirror. That sucks. I really hate driving this truck slowly around town.
Yeah.
Because of the tri-motor. If it was a dual motor, I wouldn't have this problem at all. Yeah. I keep alluding to it. Every time we hit a bump under partial throttle, boom, you get this huge impact from the front subframe where it maxes out the bushings. You get a wheel hop when you hit a bump. And even if you're starting on a loose surface, we've had many Cybertruck tri-motor owners email me who live on dirt roads, who drive in the snow, and they're like, dude, this thing just does a front wheel drive burnout before it even sends power to the back. Tesla tried to fix this by adding a slippery surface mode that starts by putting power on all wheels, but it's like a couple menus deep. And I just wish we could leave it in a really nice locked all-wheel drive setting all the time, and the induction motors could work from 0. They might have to re-EPA test the truck in that case because it's less efficient to drive it that way, but it would make drivability 100 times better.
Agreed.
Okay, because you've noticed the clunk too, we should mention.
Yeah, I remember the first time I was really just driving it around, and I called you in a complete panic because I thought something really, really bad. I thought the freaking battery fell out of the thing. And you're like, oh, no, that's just a thing. Yeah. Carry on. I was like, oh,
just does that. The next thing is actually in key up settings and driving it around. I like to have a vehicle that I can very quickly have in the most comfort-oriented setting, and then with a very quick swipe of a screen or a quick button hit, I'm in like sporty mode, and then back to comfort. So what I really ideally want is a way to get it into Baja mode while moving, and there is no way to activate Baja mode without being in park because it has to show this warning for whatever reason, which is annoying. So many other cars just let you go ESP off. I don't know why Tesla couldn't figure that out, but I want a hotkey for Baja mode while moving. Because like I'll be just driving down the street and then there's a roundabout on like the way into our neighborhood, and I just want to rip this thing full sideways through the roundabout, and I've got to like stop, put it in park, drive. It's annoying. And the reason this is so important is because the factory setup on the vehicle, just driving it around every day without Baja mode, is very intrusive, very not fun, very not performance-y, and it's a 7,000 pound truck. I get it, whatever, but I think that would be pretty cool. The third point that I don't like about the truck is the reliability, especially recently. This is an early truck. It seems that only early Cybertrucks had the motor issues that were affected, but also just the rattles, the overall fit and finish. It feels like this truck's just getting not tired, but it's not as tight as it was when it was on day one. Would you agree with that, Alyssa?
Yeah, I would agree. Definitely has had some losses.
Yeah, and so it's only got 27,000 miles on it. And for us to start feeling some of that quality go down all the way, that's a little bit annoying. I can use our Rivian, for example, 60,000 miles on that truck, many years older than this, still feels as tight as day one.
Mm-hmm.
Not a rattle, not a squeak in that truck. It's amazing.
Yeah, the leather, everything, the interior, everything's held up amazingly.
Yeah, not on this. The seat's starting to wear a little bit.
Yep. And yeah, I think that's a huge thing for you as well.
Yeah. The next point that's annoying is they force you to use FSD and not basic autopilot.
Yes. Drives me nuts.
Yeah, and that is, okay, problem is twofold. Not only did we not have FSD for a while, now the truck does.
Right.
So that was annoying. Because Cybertruck doesn't have like a basic autopilot profile, you can't cover the interior camera, first of all, which you can in all the other cars.
You really shouldn't do, but everybody does.
We don't recommend it.
Everybody
but,
does.
Like, it's kind of one of the reasons I don't like taking this on a road trip, because you got to just like stare
Literally
at the road
drive.
the whole time. Yeah. Which like you always should and pay attention, and we're not here to advocate for misuse of these systems. I mean, I'm a real advocate for ADAS safety. However, it's so intrusive, and FSD is really bad at staying in the center of the lane on the highway on whatever updates have been recent.
Yeah, with the Cybertruck, it definitely just kind of
just meanders.
Yeah.
And I've shown videos like in other range tests and stuff where I'll put it on FSD and it just like drifts off the road.
Yeah, it does not like to stay in the middle of the lane, and it doesn't really have a purpose to why it's where it is.
Yeah, it's very odd, because FSD and all the other cars, Alyssa, is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
We use them all the time in Model S and our Model 3. I use FSD everywhere. I really don't like it in this truck. They need to work on FSD in Cybertruck.
Correct. Yeah.
And it's great. It's really great in like bumper to bumper traffic, stuff like that. It's pretty good. But when you're on these wide open highways, it just meanders around. And that's where I wish there was just a basic highway lane centering function. That would be amazing. I also don't like to use FSD in this truck because it's a very recognizable truck, especially here in town. People know it. Some people hate it. Some people love it. And it always drives a little bit weird. I feel like if I'm in my Model S, I'm okay if it messes up sometimes. Like I don't feel as much shame. But I feel like everyone knows it's us in this truck, and FSD is like making all these weird lane changes, and it's just, I'm hypersensitive to it, so I end up driving manually most of the time. That's a little bit annoying. The next thing, really the main problem with this truck compared to the competition, and really my main annoyance with it, the number one problem for me, is the range and charging performance. This truck just doesn't have as much capacity as it should. I pre-ordered the range extender with this truck. Here we are a year later, no range extender. So that is one thing that is not in there. It's a real problem. In fact, Jordan and I just did an episode. It might even go up the same time as this video on Out of Spec Bits on all of my questions and considerations when it comes to the range extender they're going to put in here. How it's going to be implemented, how it's going to impact payload, how the charging performance might interact, and what the solutions might be there, or if they'll just cancel it entirely. No question, Tesla needs to offer a large battery pack option, not through a range extender. This thing needs a 200 kilowatt hour pack for people who do real work with it. And that is the main issue with this truck. Charging takes forever. The range is terrible on the truck. 300 miles, okay, at 70 miles an hour is fine. As soon as you put the light bar on it and these tires and you tow with it and you use it and do truck stuff with it, the performance just dies. Ryan couldn't even get 200 miles out of it today. Now, it's not production representative with the 37s or whatever we have on here, and it was windy, but still, Alyssa, this is a big giant truck. It needs a big giant battery. Tesla put the smallest battery they could in there just to hit some metrics. What's your impression?
My impression is if you're going to make a truck, it needs to do truck things, and it needs to do truck things well enough to where it doesn't annoy the owners, and it's not just a pavement princess, which this one's not. This one's gone off and done a bunch of things, but it's the range is just terrible. Taking it on that one road trip to Jackson Hole
Oh,
was
it's
just
awful.
It was just a terrible experience.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting a new Sierra Denali, and you're like 440 miles or whatever before the first charging stop, real world. That's a big difference.
Right. Yeah.
And then it just sits at like 360 kilowatt charging all the way through. Like, that works.
Yeah, exactly.
This doesn't work. So that's a real problem, a real annoyance from my side. Many Cybertruck owners probably just charge at home most of the time and drive around town. If that's the intention, this is totally okay. And I still think, Tesla should keep this drivetrain configuration for 80% of people. But we also know many people who live in Wyoming, who live here, who have Cybertrucks, who use them as ranching trucks or long distance towing trucks. And every one of those people would not say no to a bigger battery pack. In fact, I would even pay an additional $20,000 or more for a 200 kilowatt hour pack in here. I hate the idea of a range extender. It feels clunky. It doesn't feel Tesla to me, just annoying. This needs a bigger battery, and it needs not necessarily higher peak charging speeds. This truck will do 320, 330 kilowatts, it just needs to hold it longer. And I just think we're at a cell limitation where Tesla is optimizing too much for cost and not for cell performance, and it's a real problem. The last, I put in a sixth thing on the thing I don't hate, of course. You can't put enough phone keys on Teslas. We keep running out, like our friends drive our cars or colleagues or whatever, and like you run out of phone keys.
I get kicked off all the time.
And the problem is you can't delete them without having the key card.
Right.
And we have like 5,000 key cards. I don't know what goes to what.
Right.
And the thing is, you can program a key card to as many Teslas as you want. But then also that fills up a key slot in the vehicle. So we just need more. We need like 100 available key slots for phone as a key. It's a weird thing. It's just a unique thing. And that's that. Alyssa, we're getting towards the end of this video. How long have we been going?
44 minutes.
That's just this clip though, right?
That's just this
So clip. It's going to be an hour.
Yeah. Oh, God. Yeah, of course.
Oh, typical Out of Spec.
Yep.
Social acceptance. Why don't you talk about that? Because I want to talk about early days when everyone was excited, and then it kind of dipped, but then it came back, then it kind of dipped again. What do you think about this truck early and then today?
Yeah, I mean, I think it stayed pretty strong on being a just something you always see on the road. It always will catch everybody's attention. You're never going to drive blind. You can't go incognito with this car at all, especially now that it's wrapped. It's just completely everybody knows you're on the road when you're driving this, and that's been from day one, and it's been until now. And day one, I remember I hated the truck. I hated the truck because of how much attention you couldn't drive down the road without somebody filming you, and
it was dangerous.
It was like, and people were like driving you off the road or driving off the road, and then a lot of just attention at the house. There was a point where I just was like, okay, this thing, just keep it at the office for a little bit, so there's just not people circling our driveway 24/7 and driving the dogs nuts. But and that's always kind of, that all died off. We got a lot more. That
lasted probably 5 months.
It did, but it definitely died down more when we had more people local that had trucks. So more people just, it was just around town a lot more often. And then, so that all died down. And then now all of this stuff that's going on, it's kind of picked back up. I mean,
yeah, the Tesla hate stuff.
Yeah, and the level of hate that I've gotten driving this car around is just astronomical. I genuinely don't want to look at the cars beside me because I feel like I'm gonna get bullied, and so and that's terrible because I'm just out enjoying my car and driving around and doing errands. Nothing to harm anybody, but it really seems to now offend people again to the highest degree out of any of the Tesla lineup.
Oh yeah, you can drive the 3 of the S around. People don't really look at you ever. You drive this around, you're getting like the salutes, you're getting the middle fingers, you're getting all the stuff.
You're getting honked at, you're getting yelled at, you got people hanging out the window.
Pushing you off the road. One thing that's changed massively is when we first got it, everyone kind of liked it, even the diesel truck guys. And then it went to diesel truck hate where we would get coal rolled and stuff.
Yeah.
That they all like the truck now because it's turned into a little bit of a political thing, not to overgeneralize.
Yeah.
The truck people love this thing and the Subaru drivers hate it.
Yeah, it became more acceptable in Wyoming.
Yeah, you
than it
drive this thing
was.
in Wyoming, people are like, oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny because we're
Yeah.
right on the border of like, okay, college, campus, everything from us south is like pretty hardcore blue. Everything from us north is pretty hardcore red.
Right.
And we do get the different exposures of
Yeah.
driving the truck. And
It's a good social experiment.
the reactions have flip-flopped.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's been amazing. So from day one until now, there's still reactions driving this car down the road, no matter what you get. It's not as extreme where people are filming you and all that. So I feel more comfortable driving the car around and not getting run off the road. But now with all the hate and everything going on, it's just it kind of like it doesn't make your day better driving it because you know somebody's going to try to bring you down.
Right, totally. Yeah, I mean, it's just you're out there driving your vehicle, and then they're just mad at you for no reason. One thing we did, especially when it got really bad here in Colorado, we have the luxury of driving other cars, of course.
Yeah.
And so this ended up just sitting here. It was also broken, like it had motor failure.
Yeah. So there's a lot of things that happened to why it was sitting, but
this truck has not been vandalized.
No, but we've also made it a point to keep it behind gates, inside, and
we kind of hid it.
Yeah, more hidden, but I mean, I don't think anything would happen in our neighborhood, but I would think if we were to leave it out here and we didn't have this fencing that we all have now, definitely something could have possibly happened, but nothing has happened to us, and we're very grateful for that. But I mean, go ahead, graffiti it up.
Well, we'll talk about that in a little bit. Okay.
We'll draw a smiley face on it.
Don't graffiti our truck, please. The last point, Alyssa, before I get into our final testing results on the battery capacity and value and all that stuff, is should you buy a Cybertruck?
Mm-hmm.
This is if someone's in the market for a new electric pickup truck, should you buy a Cybertruck?
I mean, yeah, it's a fun truck. I don't think it's the best truck on the market, though.
What is the best truck on the market?
This Sierra.
That's in your opinion?
In my opinion, for doing truck things that truck things are supposed to do, if you're a truck person, that definitely is the go-to car. If you're looking for more of a lifestyle, then it's kind of between this and the Rivian. And I don't know, that's kind of...
What about Lightning? Lightning's used are really cheap. That's a great value. Nice trucks.
Yeah, they are. I like the Lightning too. I mean, there's a lot of great truck options, but it just all depends on what you're doing with the truck.
I think this is a fantastic option if you're using it as a daily driver most of the time. Having FSD with continual software improvements is really important. I am going to run through some of the software improvements that have happened to this truck since we bought it, but I think that's a huge driver. Just the user experience and everything. I love the driving dynamics of the dual motor, especially. I would highly recommend the dual motor Cybertruck over the tri-motor Cybertruck. I've driven them both back to back. After owning this one, unless you really are going to go and rally it and take it, even potentially off-road, the dual motor's got dual mechanical lockers. This uses a software locker in the back, which is good, but not great. And it does have a mechanical locker up front, which is at least nice. But in general, I think dual motor Cybertruck for whatever they are, $69,900 or $70 or $80,000, I don't know, seems like a good value. And the used value prices it's not like they're that much lower than the new ones, but you can get a pretty nice Cybertruck used right now. And I would actually recommend that. If you find a later generation, a lot of the problems we had with our early truck have been resolved and fixed. And I would actually highly recommend a new one. I know it sounds crazy because we've been through so much on this truck, but I still think Rivian just lacks the thermal performance that I really want to see out of them from charging. And there's just a little bit of oddities with the Gen 2 Rivian I don't 100% love, even though I've fallen in love with my Gen 1 Rivian. The Lightning, I think, makes a lot of sense if you're just looking for a normal truck. Yeah, it's fast.
Very normal.
They're reliable. It's great daily driver, very comfortable, good driver assistance. But you're right, Alyssa, when it comes to actually towing and doing long distance and hauling and heavy payload, over distance and just having more space, the Sierra, that's the move. I really love the new Sierra Denali, and they have multiple trim levels now. But that truck, I think, looks better than the Silverado. Super nice on the inside. The pricing is very reasonable when you compare it to what these things have, and it's got 217 kilowatt hours usable. That's what I would do all day long, without question. You don't have the fun driving dynamics. You don't have the off-road capability. You don't have the power of all of this, but that's a great truck. So now it's time to go through final testing on the truck, Alyssa, and then we'll share with everyone what we're doing. So what I did today with Ryan was, it'll be a video on our Out of Spec testing channel. We looked at how the battery has held up over the last 1 year and 27,000 miles. And do you want to take a guess as to how much capacity fade or degradation we have had on our truck since new?
23%.
You think it's down 23% capacity? What the heck? That would be crazy.
Okay, 12.
12. In fact, only about 5 or 6%.
Oh, okay.
Better than I was expecting. My gut feeling was going to be around 10 to 12% degradation, Alyssa. I agree. But I think by us adding the light bar, this cut a lot more range than we were expecting, surprisingly. And these tires really soak up a lot of range as well.
Yep.
I think that led to a false impression of higher than expected degradation from the capacity side of the cell. It full charges to like 280-ish miles. It used to full charge to 303, 305. And according to the battery pack, we pulled 123 kilowatt hours out of it during our first range test. And here today we pulled 116.2 from full to dead. And that's really not that bad considering this truck was DC charged a ton, a lot of road trips, a lot of towing, a lot of off-roading. It's had a really hard first 6 months of ownership. And then the second 6 months, it kind of just sat at 50% every day in the garage, and it was your daily driver.
Yeah, it just doodled around. So it had a good like 50-50 life, very balanced life, I would say. Overall.
It got the shit kicked out of it for the first 6 months, and then it just kind of doodled around the second 6 months. And really very, very rarely has it seen 100% charges. We've probably only full charged it less than 15 times since new. With all that said, Alyssa, now it's time to share what we're going to do in the future with this truck.
Yep.
So what happens to the Cybertruck next? We have not, at the time of this recording, agreed to anything. Tesla, I called them or messaged them and I said, guys, our truck's a brick in our, I already mentioned this in other videos if you haven't followed around. I said, our truck's been in for service a ton. It's currently a brick in our garage. Yes, I recognize that I missed the recall for the rear motors, but it never showed me in the app or anything, and now the truck's unusable. I just thought it was a little bit egregious of all of the rattles that kept coming back. The front end driving dynamics were driving me crazy with this big clunk that they just can't seem to fix on this truck and really all the tri-motors, but for some reason, maybe even this one especially. It just felt like this truck has been through so many problems, Alyssa, in the first year.
Right.
And I have heard from other Cybertruck owners, many viewers of Out of Spec have had their Cybertrucks bought back from Tesla.
Yes, they have.
And I mean, not just like 10, I mean like 20, 30.
We've got a lot of which
so
are
much.
this spec.
Yeah, the tri-motors. Yeah, we had someone who had 2 tri-motors bought back to back. So I thought, hey, if they're buying all these other people's trucks back, I didn't really know this was like a thing. I was prepared to go the lemon law route. I was like, let's figure out how this works. I will go, and I think we have a case. The truck's been into service multiple times to replace multiple items without totally fixing it. Front suspension being a thing, some rattles in the thing. All 3 motors had failures, essentially, where we needed to replace the front motor, the rear motor faulted. And I called Tesla and I said, hey, or messaged them, said, hey, can you repurchase our truck? And like weeks went by and we didn't hear anything. And I just thought, oh, well, I asked, maybe they're not going to do anything. Then we got a random message about a couple weeks ago that said, hey, Tesla has agreed to repurchase your Cybertruck. Right, Alyssa?
Right.
And they sent me the numbers. They said basically, hey, we'll give you, full value since what you paid on the truck since new, less the mileage deduction. And they go off of the state the truck's registered in. So I believe if it was registered in Colorado, it would have been around 25 cents a mile or something like that. Because this truck is registered in Florida, they have a super weird mileage calculation for this. And this is why I haven't agreed to do this yet, but I think I'm leaning towards agreeing. They say you have to take your mileage times 120,000. So in this case, it'd be like 26,500 miles times 120,000 divided by MSRP, which is also $120,000 on this particular spec, which works out to $1 per mile.
Oof.
Which is a big hit. However, Alyssa, they would also give us all of the taxes we paid back on the truck, which was like over $7,500 in tax, plus the initial deposit fee and everything, and they would make us whole less the roughly, $27,000 of depreciation due to mileage that they would deduct. Now, if I look at that versus if I went to go sell this Cybertruck in the used market, you know how much they would probably give me for this truck?
80 grand?
No, 60.
Oh.
Yeah, because it's got miles.
Yep.
And it's got a YouTube history of being broken in our garage. Not sure people would want this particular one. So they're willing to write us a check basically for 110 grand.
Yeah.
And we paid 120 for it plus tax.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like we were out the door like 130 something. I can't remember exactly. Yeah. I have the numbers somewhere. And I think all the viewers right now are screaming, take the deal, have them buy it back. And I think that's what we're going to do.
Unfortunately, so.
So this is actually being repurchased by Tesla. Now, my impression, you never really know, is I don't think they're doing it just because we make YouTube videos and whatever. They didn't say we couldn't talk about anything online. If they did, I would be talking about it anyway. I don't think genuinely, the people we're dealing with have no idea who we are.
No.
They just looked at, this truck's been in a bunch, a lot of problems. Let's just take it back. That's what they've done for so many other viewers. Mm-hmm. And throughout mentioning it in other videos, I can't thank everyone who has reached out to share their Tesla buyback experiences. It helped me navigate this process, understand the really long wait times. I think it's been 8 weeks since I initially requested the buyback. It's still not finalized. It does take a lot of time. There's a lot of questioning on what to do. But we did get the official offer from Tesla, which is, $120,000, which was the MSRP of the truck, plus the taxes and fees, less the mileage. And I think that's more than fair. I, in full transparency, asked them, like, hey guys, can you not charge us $1 per mile? Because even according to Tesla, you on a lease, over mileage is like 25 cents a mile. Can you just charge us that? And they're like, no, because it's registered in Florida. That's how the state would have done it if we went to court. So we just go through there. They're like, you can go through court and we end up in the same place, or we can just take the truck back. And I was like, yeah, sounds good. You can just take the truck back. So Alyssa, I'm totally not sure what the last day of ownership will be for us, but we are going to probably pull the wrap off. They did not request that. I don't think they know it's wrapped, but I think we should. It'd be fun to see how to remove the wrap. I hate to do it because G and his team at Test Bros just wrapped it, but we're going to pull that off. We're going to put the stock wheels back on. I may take the light bar.
No,
I don't know.
Keeping it. Yeah.
Because I think we will end up with another Cybertruck in the future.
Yeah.
And I would like to put this on the next Cybertruck. I'm sure we'll have one at some point. I don't think I'm going to go immediately and buy a dual motor.
No.
But we'll see what happens with used prices and everything. I think I'll end up with another one of these trucks one day. I'd love to keep the light bar. I'll ask Tesla first, of course, because that was technically part of what we paid for, included with the Foundation series.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure they get back everything they agreed. I'll make sure it's all kosher, but I'm going to request to take the light bar off. And then what happens to this after it goes back to Tesla? I don't know. Do they resell it? It'd be kind of fun to buy it back if they sell it for like 50 grand. Lemon title or buyback title. Maybe it turns into a service loaner. I don't know.
Probably goes into the service fleet first.
Yeah, that's what a lot of them seem to go into is like, take the worst ones and that becomes your loaner.
Yeah, but we've never had a Cybertruck for a service vehicle.
But they do have one at Loveland.
Oh, they do? Okay.
Yeah. And so if anyone gets VIN 146, right? Isn't that what it is? Where's the VIN on these things? Aren't they?
Here?
Oh, yeah, right here. Yeah, VIN 000000146. That's the old Out of Spec Chomper.
Chomper. Big chomps.
And we named it Chomper because we got this right around the time when all of our videos of us crushing fruit in the hood and stuff were blowing up because it chomps.
Yep.
So it's kind of sad ending, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm going to miss the truck. I like it.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. I genuinely really do like the truck for daily usage or whatever. Just having it around has been so useful. I don't know what we're going to do for our range testing now. So that's going to be a real question mark on how do we charge cars after they die. Lucid gravity?
Yeah, maybe. That's
maybe.
A possibility.
We have a new R1S coming very soon as well. So we've got vehicles coming to the channel.
But that doesn't charge things.
No, I know. But I'm just saying, we've already, do we need a gravity if we've got an R1S coming?
Oh, yeah.
But maybe.
Maybe.
I think maybe yes. So that's the end of our Cybertruck then. We're going to have other videos. We're going to have like a last drive. We'll show you how the return process works. I'm going to make a whole video on the Tesla buyback experience because I think everyone deserves to know that that's an option. If you're really in a pickle and they can't fix your vehicle and you don't want to go through a court option, at least it was worth asking in our case. And I think we're getting a more than fair deal, even considering the dollar per mile hit. Because if you think about it, we were able to get this truck, just selfishly so early. We made a ton of videos. I think overall very positive videos on the truck because we genuinely did love it, and it did perform pretty well in all areas except range and charging. And then, now Tesla's buying it back because of all the problems. I think that's fair. I think that's what they should do for any customer. It sounds like that's what they do for any customer. And I'm really going to miss our truck. So with that, the 1-year Cybertruck ownership update, the last one.
And it's leaving.
What was that?
It's going.
It's going.
Gone.
More videos to come on how the buyback process goes. I asked if I could return it on Friday. Today's Wednesday.
Oh.
I don't know if they're ready that soon. They seem to like to go slow. Tesla's really fast at everything until they want to take your car back.
Well, I mean, that's understandable.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm okay with it. Honestly, we ran it through the final testing. I got to do a couple 10% challenges with it. I want to do it with all the stuff on there and with it off as well, just to showcase how much range hit everything has. I want Colton and I to pull the wrap off just to do a detailing video on that. We didn't even talk about the stainless steel. Stainless steel held up great on this truck.
Oh, yeah, it was great. It's fine.
We did 6 months, 8 months, 9 months of just beating the crap out of the stainless, came back to brand new.
Yeah, and Colton's method that he concocted really does work and makes them, just squeaky clean.
Yeah, so if you have a Cybertruck and need it detailed, check out our Out of Spec detailing channel.
Yeah.
Hook up with Colton. He details a lot of Cybertrucks. He just had one in there that was destroyed. Like it looked like the whole thing was rusted. It turned brown. It looked terrible. Came out looking brand new. It was amazing.
Better than new.
Yeah, way better.
They don't come looking good.
Yeah, that's right. Sometimes they come looking terrible. Our truck came looking pretty good, actually. A couple scratches here and there, but it's all good. So I hate that that's the ending. I love that we had the opportunity to have the truck for a year. I'm certainly not here to say it was completely trouble-free, but no question, we got amazing content out of it. We demystified the truck. We compared it to the rest of the truck lineup. And I think if you look up any Cybertruck content online, our videos are there. So I feel like we've left our mark on this vehicle and its story throughout history. So I'm very thrilled to be able to do that. And I'm very, very sad to see it go, in all honesty.
I agree.
Any last final comments before we wrap this up? People have already fallen asleep, so you can say whatever you want.
You've been good but bad to us, but we love you, and goodbye.
Thanks so much for watching another Out of Spec Reviews video. Goodbye, Chomper. We'll make another couple videos with it before it goes, but Tesla's buying this one back. We'll see you in another one again soon. Bye-bye.